Well, moving on, I get to introduce someone I know quite well. And I thought, how shall I introduce my boss, Brewster Kahle? And I thought, sometimes a picture says 1,000 words. This is the picture that I wanted to show you. This is Brewster and his son, Kaslan, in 2002. And you have to understand the Universal Digital Library, the Million Books Project was just starting, and people were wondering, why would you even want to digitize millions of books? So Brewster, in his unique, inimitable way, he created a fleet of Internet Archive bookmobiles. You see there's a satellite right there on the top so it can access any book that was in the Internet Archive. And he and his son and others drove this across the country, stopping in community after community, evangelizing the need for digital books because they had a little printer. So if you wanted a book, he would print out on demand a public domain book for children who didn't have large collections of books. And he drove this bookmobile all the way to the Supreme Court, where the seminal copyright case of Eldred versus Ashcroft was being litigated. So to me, this picture kind of epitomizes how Brewster will put the technology, he will put the passion, he will put the money, and he will tackle some of the biggest legal issues in order to fulfill the mission of the Internet Archive, which is universal access to all knowledge. It is my honor to introduce to you the founder, the digital librarian of the Internet Archive, Brewster Kahle.
Thank you, Wendy. And this is a tremendous gathering. And Liz for actually doing the real work of the actual getting these things online, which is not all just turning pages and taking photographs as you've outlined. And thank you to everyone. I want to say one thing. Raj Reddy was right. Bringing our history into the internet and into the present is important, right? A lot of people look to just building the future. Let's just build robots, whatever, But no, let's go and make sure that we bring our full history, everything we've ever published online and to this next generation and generations to come. Technically, we've seen it isn't easy. Legally has been one of the big challenges of this. Raj has never shied away from trying to take the right stand in all of this. And it wasn't easy to get people to understand, as Wendy pointed out, in early 2000s, why you'd even want to go and digitize a book. There are very few people that just said, there are many people, most people said, I will never read a book on a screen. Never, ever. Will never happen. And so we had to go and try to demonstrate why. And so, yes, these bookmobiles were really terrific as a mechanism of showing, okay, well, maybe you want to print it back out again. And we made these in India, in Egypt, in Uganda, to go and demonstrate the value of having access to the great libraries that really was not available at all in those realms. And also to try back home in the United States, where there was really not a shortage of printed books mostly, to people in the legal profession of why this endless extension of copyright and the extensions and the lawsuits against libraries that have been continuous from the publishing and the author lobbyists. Why are those not necessarily in what we need as a country, as learners that are more and more now digital learners? So what did the Internet Archive do? Well, we helped the Indian and the Chinese efforts. We bought 100,000 books from Kansas City Public Library and sent them to India when they were running short on books to digitize. That was fun. We employed people in India to keep going. And in the Chinese efforts, we were working with them up until just a few years ago, but wanted to do things in the United States and in Europe and in the rest of the Americas. So back in 2004, I stood on a stage at CNI and I said, okay, Raj Reddy has shown us that the Chinese and Indians can digitize books. Can we build it here? If we build it here, will you come? And Liz was very much involved in this. And the only person that really stood up and went forward was Carol Moore from the University of Toronto, the fourth largest library in North America, and said, let's do this. And working with them over the years, we basically figured out how to go and design and build a book scanner that would work for librarians handling their rare materials in the ways that they wanted to do it. So it started in 2004. We built our own scanners, and we've been running with these for the last 15 years. In 2008, we started buying ebooks. We found that most publishers would not sell us ebooks. Hasn't changed. So there's real problems with the born digital. So we started really doubling down and digitizing more and more physical books. We started lending digitized books in 2011 with the Boston Public Library in the forefront to try to move into the modern book era. So if you physically own a book that's not circulating, you digitize it and lend it one reader at a time, just like a library. 80 libraries have joined this program. And in 2018, a group of lawyers came together to go and find, absolutely, under United States law, all of this completely makes sense to digitize and lend books in something they called controlled digital lending. So now it has a name. We started in 2011, and in 2018, it had a name of controlled digital lending. Now, Harvard, Princeton, Georgetown Law, all sorts of libraries have picked up on this. Hundreds of libraries now do controlled digital lending. Vendors are adding it to their packages. But it wasn't so clear cut. And it's still not clear cut because 4 commercial publishers decided to sue the Internet Archive to try to stop controlled digital lending. And to boot, they're demanding that we destroy 2 million digitized books. So a digital book burning. We'll see how this all turns out. But it's kind of distressing that even the fights that Google were dragged through for years and years of digitized books is still going on, which is, I think we should be looking a little bit more towards the future. And if we've ever wondered why you'd want digital books, the year 2020 told us why. The global pandemic hits. Every library in this country shuts down, school libraries, public libraries, college libraries. And we start getting calls from professors, teachers, homeschoolers, desperate to find some way in their Zoom classrooms to bring books to kids. We spring into action, tell them about the lending systems, extend the lending systems to the books that are in their physical collections. And it makes a huge on the ground difference towards making kids able to learn and continue during a pandemic that now doesn't seem to it's ever going to end. But let me get back to Raj's call. Could we do millions of books with the scanners we built? Well, finding the source of the books wasn't easy. We found a few ways. We started, University of Toronto was great. And then we started getting books from lots of other libraries. We got all the way up to 500 libraries, but basically mostly the pre-1923 books. We got $10 million in funding from Microsoft, which we're very grateful for, to really get this whole thing off. Dozens of scanning centers in 3 continents, including the Library of Congress, Boston Public Library, University of California. But we wanted the modern books, and it was difficult to get those. So we turned to a used bookseller called Better World Books. And today, Better World Books, now owned by a nonprofit, is donating books that were once deaccessioned by libraries to another library, our library. And they donated 1.8 million books last year. We're now digitizing over 1 million books a year, and some of which are many of which are from the Better World Books, which we want to say thank you to them, but also all the libraries that deaccession into Better World Books. Just last month, the National Library of New Zealand decided to donate 600,000 books from their collections. These are books from the 1960s, 1990s that New Zealand wanted to get online. No publisher is likely to bring these online, and they were just sitting in an offsite repository. But I believe, and Raj has always known, that there's value in those books. Today, there are a few publishers, very few indie publishers that we should reinforce and that are selling ebooks, like really selling them, not just licensing them in some weird disappearing act. Because the licensing doesn't work for libraries for long-term preservation or access, or I would say even for people's personal collections. So I think we need to get back to purchasing ebooks and support library publishers and authors such as Brickhouse that are selling them. Now, thanks to Raj and his inspiration, we now have 4.6 million books, either downloadable because they're in the public domain, or 2 million that are in the lending library. And we're going to keep going because our goal has always been universal access to all knowledge. Legally, we can do it. Technically, we can do it. And in economic and legal approaches, we can do it. The motto of the Internet Archive, universal access to all knowledge, is cribbed from Raj Reddy. He wrote a report to the president in 2001 that was titled Universal Access to Human Knowledge. And so we cribbed that title with attribution. Thank you, Raj, for giving the motto to the Internet Archive. In the next segment, we're going to show some of what gets unleashed when you have millions and millions of books that are easy to play with and in digital form. Raj, thank you to you and to all that have followed you.